It's time, Cougar Nation. Cougar Tracks. The best season analysis with BYU insider Mitch Harper on KSL News Radio and on video every day on the YouTube page for KSL Sports.
Welcome into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL News Radio, your legacy home of the Cougars. It's Wednesday, November 19th. I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper. There's a new set of college football playoff rankings that are out, and safe to say, Cougar fans aren't happy.
The top story of the day. The biggest story in the world of BYU sports right here on Cougar Tracks.
So there's good news and bad news when it comes to this week's college football playoff rankings. Good news, BYU moved up from number 12 to number 11. The bad news, they would still be outside the 12-team college football playoff. So here are the rankings for this week, the third installment of the college football playoff top 25. Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, Indiana. 3, Texas A&M, who needed a 28-point rally to take down South Carolina. 4, Georgia. 5, Texas Tech, who moves up one spot. 6, Ole Miss. 7, Oregon. 8, Oklahoma, who just took down the Crimson Tide, but they are the highest-ranked 2-loss team. Number 9, Notre Dame, also a 2-loss team. 10, Alabama, who just suffered the setback at home to Oklahoma. Then number 11, BYU. Followed behind the Cougars is Utah at number 12, Miami at 13, Vanderbilt at 14, 15, USC. 5 teams in the Big 12 are ranked in this week's ranking, and that led Brett Yormark to be thrilled and issuing a statement out of nowhere that said, we'll prove it on the field. I thought it was a little bit strange, but it was good to see 5 Big 12 teams ranked in this week's ranking, but still only one team from the Big 12 would be in the field. BYU seems like they're boxed out. It seems like there's no real path to getting into the bracket outside of winning the Big 12. BYU being behind the 2-loss teams, I think, is a big question. And also, to an extent, too, Oregon. Oregon at number 7 is fascinating as well when you consider Oregon's 0-1 against teams that are currently in the top 25. Their best win was probably last week against Minnesota at home, while BYU's best win is number 12, Utah. They're 1-1 against the top 25. Arizona, that 7-3 Wildcats team, they're trending up. And BYU's one loss is at home, or excuse me, on the road at Texas Tech, while Oregon lost at home. I think that's got to matter too, is where you lose. If you're not protecting home turf, how can you be expected to win against these elite teams in a neutral setting? I asked the College Football Playoff Committee chairman, Hunter Yurachek, about BYU being behind the 2-loss teams, and here was that exchange on the weekly College Football Playoff teleconference.
Hunter, what are the differentiators that the committee sees currently that puts BYU behind 2-loss teams, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and Alabama?
I think it is really the way they looked in that game against Texas Tech. They were dominated on both sides of the ball in that game against Texas Tech. And then you look at their wins. They have a win over Utah, who's ranked 13th, but then their other wins are against that we would consider quality wins are against an unranked Iowa State team, Arizona, and East Carolina. And then you look at a 2-loss Alabama team that's got wins against number 4 Georgia, number 14 Vanderbilt, number 21 Missouri, and number 20 Tennessee. Notre Dame's got a win over 15th ranked Southern Cal, and then last week a dominating win on the road at Pitt, who was ranked. And then Oklahoma has wins at number 18 Michigan, number 20 Tennessee, and at number 10 Alabama. So I think it's just the number of quality wins that are with those 2-loss teams ahead of them, and then how they looked in that game 2 weeks ago in Texas Tech.
I don't know if you can say that BYU was completely dominated in all phases against Texas Tech. Now, it was a beatdown. The final score, everything, BYU wasn't close, but BYU's defense, I thought, showed up. And they looked every bit the part of a group that will compete against anyone in college football. Baron Morton's banged up, I get that, but BYU's defense looked awesome. And then in the second half, they just kind of faded away because they couldn't lift up the offense that was completely inept. You want to knock the offense from BYU in Lubbock? Absolutely, go in on them. You want to rip the special teams? Absolutely, go in on them. But the defense did not get outclassed. I disagree with that comment. And when he lists all the ranked wins for the teams that are 2-loss squads in front of BYU, what's frustrating about that, and where fans have the issues with the committee, and the committee 2 weeks ago when Mack Rhoades was the College Football Playoff Committee chair, referenced how Alabama had a string of wins against ranked teams earlier in the year. And you're thinking, there's no rankings from the playoff committee earlier in the year. What rankings are they referring to? Oh, the AP. Oh, the coaches poll, where it's basically built off of brand perception. And then it's a self-fulfilling deal where SEC teams just stay in the top 25 and they never leave. That's the problem. And it's nice for, the Big 12 that there's now 5 teams in the rankings. And sometimes I honestly look at the rankings and think to myself, does the committee just put some of these teams in the back half of the rankings to justify where they have some teams near the top? Like Texas Tech, good for them. They've got wins now over Houston. They got wins over BYU and Utah. And their one loss is to a ranked Arizona State where they were without their quarterback. So that's a good resume to say they definitely are the 5th team. There's a case for them to be in the top 4. But the ranked argument is frustrating. Why isn't Arizona ranked? Why is Missouri a better 3-loss team than Arizona? Arizona's surging. Arizona just got a win over a team in Cincinnati who was in the rankings last week. And I think there's some metrics, too, with BYU that are pretty interesting. 6th strength of record. Strength of schedule is 27th. According to ESPN, Oregon's strength of schedule is 31st. Now, between the BYU strength of schedule, 27th, Notre Dame, 29. I thought it was noteworthy, too, that Notre Dame got put at 9 in front of Alabama. I projected that. I put it in my projection rankings on KSLSports.com on Monday night. I knew it would happen because with Notre Dame having no chance at a 13th data point, it creates a little bit of cushion to keep Notre Dame in the field. Because eventually there's going to get a point where either BYU or maybe even Miami are pushing Notre Dame and maybe they get bounced. But there's still a little bit of cushion because Alabama's nestled right behind them. But Alabama has a chance to go to the SEC championship game. And I'd like to think that getting to a championship game does not sink you. I'm not confident, though, that's the case now with where BYU stands. I don't know if just losing to Texas Tech by a small margin would be enough to get BYU in. It kind of feels like the Cougars are boxed out to where they have to win the Big 12 to get into the field. And I think, so, some people are saying, hey, maybe USC beats Oregon. And then that allows BYU to move up because those two teams face off this week. Oregon's at 7, USC's at 15. It's so much tougher to climb within the top 10. It's not as difficult to climb from 11 to 25. If you have a signature win, a big win, particularly on the road, it wouldn't shock me if USC jumped BYU. That's a little bit projection. I still would think that BYU should be ahead of USC, but who's to say that they don't just put USC at 9, Notre Dame at 8, and Alabama at 10? It can happen. So, tough spot for BYU. And I know the cliche is just go out and take care of business and win. The issue, though, with the playoff in this era of college football, where it's so difficult to put together undefeated seasons, it feels like a power conference team from the Big 12. Again, a power conference league. They have to do what BYU had to do in the past. Be flawless, be perfect. And one game, one performance against an elite team, And Texas Tech is elite. We'll see that in the playoff. Texas Tech's for real, man. One bad day in Lubbock sunk you against the number 5 team in the country. It's crazy. I don't feel like style points against Cincinnati would change anything for the Cougars. Maybe I'm wrong. It's a tough path ahead for BYU, but they sit at number 11. Maybe some chaos can happen. Maybe Auburn can knock off Bama. Jordan Hare is always a hornet's nest for the Crimson Tide. Maybe some chaos can happen. We'll see. Let's take a break. We'll get to more BYU football talk around the corner here on Cougar Tracks, and it's powered by KSL Sports. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube page. Every day coming to you live on KSL Sports YouTube and audio podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Appreciate you watching, listening, however, wherever. Appreciate you for being on board with us today. Make sure to like this video, help out the show a ton, and also 5-star ratings on Apple, Spotify, wherever your audio podcast platform of choice. Leave a 5-star rating. Would appreciate that greatly. So, championship game scenarios for the Big 12. BYU and Texas Tech are the only programs this week who can clinch a spot in the Big 12 championship game. This from the Big 12. Texas Tech clinches with a loss by Arizona State and a win by BYU over Cincinnati, or with losses by Arizona State, BYU, and Utah. Texas Tech's on a bye this week. They will close out the regular season on the road at West Virginia on November 29th. BYU clinches a spot in the Big 12 championship game this week with a win over Cincinnati and losses by Arizona State and Houston. Arizona State plays Colorado, or with a win over Cincinnati and an Arizona State loss and a Utah win. I don't know how likely Arizona State losing to Colorado is, but it's the Big 12. I've seen crazier things. So that's your championship game scenarios for the week. And ultimately, BYU's got to take care of its deal against a Cincinnati Bearcats squad that's on a 2-game skid, looking to bounce back. But it seems like that fan base is energized by the fact that Big Noon kickoff is coming in the morning on Saturday. But then at night, 8 p.m. Eastern kick. BYU's fine with that. They love a good 8 p.m. kickoff, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. But it's a test for BYU because after their last road game in Lubbock, where the offense was a mess, Aaron Roderick knows this is going to be a challenge to go on the road and perform at a high level.
Yeah, first of all, they're a good team. That's the big challenge right there. Is just we're playing as a good team. They have good players, good schemes. They're well coached. So that's the first part, is just that they're good. Then secondly, we're on the road, which we didn't handle our last road game very well, didn't handle crowd noise very well. So we've got to do better with that. And then just, it's a long trip. So, we've done it before and we've won games on the road in the past, but it's a huge challenge for sure. This is a team that is very good.
Besides piping in noise, how do you prepare for a road situation?
It's really the only way you can. You just try to. It's miserable. I mean, you pipe that noise in, and it makes practice miserable. But that's the only way you can really practice it. So that's what we'll do.
Cincinnati's defense, pretty solid. I mean, not the greatest. Total defense 87th nationally. Rush defense 86, passing yards allowed 88, but they got some personnel that are pretty solid. I think that's what makes me say they got potential. But that 3-3-5 scheme, as you heard this week from a guy that Nick Niehaus, who covers Cincinnati, fans are not happy with that scheme, but they've got some talent on that team. But this is a chance for BYU's offense, I think, to put up some numbers again. And I like the fact that LJ Martin is continuing to gain that confidence, recovering back from the injury. I think that's significant, and I think LJ revealing that was noteworthy because he lacked the confidence at Texas Tech to perform at a high level, whereas against TCU, he looked like his normal self, and when LJ is awesome, BYU's got the potential to be awesome, and then that just makes Bear Bachmeier a better quarterback too. It all goes back to LJ. I say it every week. LJ's the key to everything for BYU. And the Cougars have a chance to put up some numbers, I think, against Cincinnati, but handling that noise, smaller stadium, it's not the biggest in college football by any means. 37,500 fans will fill up Nippert Stadium, sold-out crowd. I'm curious to see how many Cougar fans work their way into the Queen City for this BYU-Cincinnati matchup, but it's going to be an electric atmosphere. I can't wait to see Nippert Stadium, a landlocked stadium. I've read that it's always open where students can just walk through in the day and kind of be in the stadium, which is so cool to me. I think that's awesome. So it's kind of part of the campus life, the community. It's right there within campus. So I can't wait to see it. It's historic. Cincinnati as a campus has a lot of history as well. So tough test in front of BYU. Kickoff at 6 p.m. on Saturday night. Extended pregame gets started from Cincinnati at noon. I will have you covered there from Cincy, and then Kyle Ireland will join me from Salt Lake City for the Cougs and the Bearcats. We call that a cat fight? Bearcat? Yeah, I guess so. It should be a really good game on Saturday night, and we'll talk more about it next with BYU defensive end Tausili Akana next here on Cougar Tracks. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. Mitch Harper with you. BYU defensive end Tausili Akana had a breakout performance last week in his BYU career. Remember, he's a young guy. It's his third year in college football, transferred in from the University of Texas in the 40 acres, but he's still got a lot of football ahead of him. When you think about the future standout players of this BYU defense, I think Tausili Akana's got a ton of potential, and you started to realize that potential last week. You saw that potential from Tausili a week ago in the win against TCU. I caught up with Tausili after practice on Tuesday to catch up with him and how that performance gave him confidence heading down the stretch for the Cougars.
BYU football getting set to head back out on the road to take on the Cincinnati Bearcats, and joining me now is edge rusher Tausili Akana. And Tausili, how did it feel to have that performance that you did this past week against TCU?
It felt good just being out there with the team and the boys and just executing and trusting our coaches.
Do you think that was the best performance you've had since you got here to BYU?
Yes, most definitely.
What do you think's worked so well in recent weeks as your snap counts are increasing and now you're having a greater impact on the defense? What's caused that change?
I'd pretty much just say stacking the days and just taking it day by day, but also just like what I said kind of before is just like trusting the coaches and falling in line with what they have for us.
When you were coming out of the portal, how much of that trust in the coaches played a role in you coming to BYU from Texas?
It played a big part. Jay Hill and Coach Papingo were coaching me since, or not coaching me, but recruiting me since the start. So, I already had a kind of idea of where I wanted to come, and just that trust that we had, that bond,
When you say since the start, was that dating back to your high school time when they were recruiting you too? Can you
yes, sir.
Take us through your connections that you had to this BYU staff even when you were a high school player?
Oh, yes, sir. Pop, he was, he recruited me since Boise in Virginia. So, I kind of had a bond with him already. So, it was good that he was already here in Utah, a.k.a. home for me. So, yep.
What's been your experience so far here at BYU? First year, you arrived in the winter semester to now. How's it been going?
I'm loving it. The culture here and it's just the boys, really just like a big family vibe. So I'm loving it here.
Was it difficult when you left Texas? Was that a challenging deal? Because coming out of Skyridge, heralded recruit, was it difficult to go into the portal and get a change of scenery?
Most definitely. Not everybody wants to leave a place that you started off and, built bonds over there. So, but it was hard. But, I know coming back here, I got family here, got all the boys out here that I know. So I felt comfortable with the decision.
And so who were some of those relationships beyond the coaches that you made you feel comfortable about this move?
Most definitely my cousin Jaron Kalama, and then you got like Raider Damuni, Ace Kafusi, just all the guys from back home in Hawaii, Laia. So we all grew up together. So, they were all texting me too, like, hey, time to come home, come ball with us. So,
what's been the most enjoyable aspect of being part of this culture that Kalani's built here at BYU?
Probably just the aspects of just love and learn, just loving one another and learning and step day by day and just taking it all in.
When you feel like you're at your best as a player, how would you describe that to someone who's still kind of getting familiar with your game?
Probably say relentless, yeah. Just going to the ball as fast as I can, trying to make a play.
And how great was that feeling to have those moments last week against TCU?
Felt great. I felt like I'm finally becoming the person I'm supposed to be and being disruptive in the backfield. So, yes, sir.
How challenging is it to learn Jay Hill's defense?
It's definitely challenging, new to me, but I'm loving it because, it's also going to get us ready for the next level or what we have ahead.
And coming up ahead is Cincinnati. Your thoughts on their offense? What stands out to you with the Bearcats?
Definitely the QB, the running backs, they're very dynamic, very good. QB's good, he got some good reads, so and the O-line's pretty good, so hopefully we get some pass rush in there and disrupt them.
How much do you enjoy these road trips? 2 time zones, so that means a little bit earlier where you guys leave on a Thursday. How much do you enjoy that?
It's enjoyable, but kind of difficult at the same time. You gotta adjust everything, your sleep and everything, but it's fun though. Hey, just being out with the boys and stuff. There to Thursday, so.
Who's your roommate on the road?
On the road is Kenny Lau.
Oh, cool. So Kenny Lau's another guy that's making an impact too, and there's a lot of young, talented, along with yourself, Kenny Lau, a lot of young, talented defensive ends in this group. Can maybe just speak to some of those guys that are really progressing over the course of the season?
Yes, sir. Just me and Kenny, when we're in our room, we always, just look at each other and be like, hey, it's time to watch some film or just call out some stuff while we're watching film. So it's good to have him as a roommate and just have him on the mental side.
How, just last couple things here for you, Tausili, excited is this team to have everything in front of this group that you guys maybe set out to achieve this season? Still a lot of football left to be played, but just how excited are you guys to be in these big stages every single week?
It's very exciting, but like I said, we're stacking days, taking it week by week. So, yes, sir.
That's Tausili Akana, BYU defensive end, transferred in from the University of Texas in Austin. Bright future ahead for Tausili. He's going to be a good one, folks. I think that his potential is being unlocked and realized, and maybe we could see another big game from him potentially this week against the Cincinnati Bearcats, which, again, kicks off at 6 p.m. this Saturday night. Extended pregame begins at noon right here on KSL News Radio. We'll be back tomorrow with more BYU football breakdown. We'll hear from tight end Carson Ryan on the show tomorrow, so stay tuned for that and make sure to subscribe to the Cougar Tracks podcast wherever you get your podcast. Talk to you tomorrow here on Cougar Tracks.